My name is Zach Bradford. This is my project 2 for edfd5033. I'm in section 90. I'm going to be doing my project over socioeconomic status and how that affects education. This is from chapter 3. Yes, chapter 3. I feel like I picked this because I think that of all the topics and subject matter in Chapter 3, I think socioeconomic status is the easiest way to determine, one, a student's future success, and two, I think it affects student success overall. I think that this is a real big one that in today's society really determines your level of education, your success in society, obviously. The first aspect of your socioeconomic status is income. Income refers to your wages and salary throughout the year. So it's like just how much money you're making. According to the text, there's the little, I think it's actually right here, this little graphic. If you split the population into fifths, you have the highest fifth there making over half of the total income in the United States. So that's pretty crazy. That's not a lot of people. So that's all the money there is in the 1/5. Income really affects your general lifestyle. So if you have low income, you're not doing any extracurricular things. You're not getting a lot of self-knowledge based in anything educational. You're not going anywhere. You're not really. Your parents probably aren't spending money on like books and things like that for you. So as far as, student learning, it really does affect, income really does affect that. Also, like your parents' income probably affects how involved in the school they are in general. The second aspect of your socioeconomic status is your wealth, kind of the same as income, except it includes other more non-monetary things. There's savings account, which is your money, but then also what kind of insurance you hold, corporate stock ownership, and your property. This is almost, if your parents have a lot of wealth, it almost guarantees that you will also have like a pretty substantial income whenever you are, out of school and stuff like that when you go to college. The more wealth you have, again, probably the more involved you are in your students' life, their school life. Over 40% of U.S. households have zero or negative wealth. These are families that don't have any insurance, don't have any, they're renters probably. If they're not, borderline homeless, they have no backup money, so they can't really send their kids to do a lot of things that way either. They're not involved in school. Having wealth enhances power and prestige of those who possess wealth. So obviously, students and learners from a low wealth background don't really have a lot of influence on their life and surroundings. Again, and if you have a lot of these assets, you're a million more times likely to go to college. The third facet of your socioeconomic status is your occupation. Now, this is the biggest indicator of what your income is, obviously. It's directly correlational. Unemployed people are stigmatized as, that should say, non-contributing members of society who cannot provide for themselves. So it's like, you might have gotten laid off, had to, apply for unemployment because you got a kid to take care of. You're a single mom. People will stigmatize you as just some lazy person, and they'll look at you. That's how they will interact with you, which really affects, your education, also your child's education. Over half of the current workforce, they're white-collar or office workers. That means that over half are like the blue collar, which a lot of the blue collar jobs could be like specialized craftsmen, but then there's also just like the menial laborers who aren't really making a lot of money, have crazy hours, aren't, able to pick their kids up from, if a kid needed tutoring, that would affect the child. Their parent wouldn't be able to pick them up from tutoring. They'd have to just ride the bus straight home and not get any extra help they need. So occupation, good hours for a parent will also affect, what kind of school life a student has. It's a relatively good indicator, an objective indicator of a person's socioeconomic status, their occupation. So it's like, what do you do? This, you can pretty much, estimate how much money they make and where they are in society. Students, again, so people and their jobs, that stigmatizes them as non-contributing members if they're unemployed. It would also stigmatize students, if you're a student in school and people know that your mom doesn't work, or if it's obvious she doesn't work, people will treat you differently. Teachers might teach you differently because they will be stigmatizing, your non-contributing parent. They could view you in that light as well. You also got education. I'm going to try and hurry it up here. Best predictor of a person's occupational prestige is the amount of education they have. This is a quote from the book. A great discrepancy exists among the incomes of people who have less than a high school education, those who have completed professional training after college. Obviously, that means, if you get high school, get through high school and do college, you're going to be making way more than people who don't have a high school education. There's a direct correlation between socioeconomic level and a student's parents and the likelihood, There's a direct correlation between the socioeconomic level of a student's parents and the likelihood of the student completing high school and college. That should be obvious. Financial compensation is usually greater for occupations that require more years of education. And if you're a student and you have a low income, if your parent has low income and you're trying to make it out, it's really hard to, go to school if you have to work the whole time. So it's that's a really hard thing for kids to do. The last one, the last aspect of socioeconomic status is how much power you have. Higher SES individuals are more likely to sit on state and local policy boards, making, rules and laws and legislation, whatever. Boards of colleges and universities, which could be, for who gets in, and boards of corporations for companies, determines the receivers of special benefits and rewards in governmental, occupational, and community affairs. They control resources such as grants, that influence the lives and lives of others. Higher income individuals also are more likely to vote in elections, so they have greater influence over their environment. Even though everyone's allowed to vote, if you have a higher income, it's you probably care more, you want stuff to get done. Individuals at the upper SES levels exert more power than at any other level. That should be obvious. Individuals with less power don't have access to people. Not only do they not have power, but they don't have access to people with power that could possibly affect their lives. People that could help them out and hook them up. That could influence their interests. People with low power have a lower share of society's benefits. And education, this is directly applicable to the classroom because education is not exempt from power struggles. So you have a parent that has, if they sit on the school board or if they sit on the university board of this college or something like that, they will influence their student's life in their school. The student probably will not get a failing grade ever. They probably will have first, dibs when it comes to playing on sports teams and stuff like that. It just completely affects everything. So hopefully I've gone over these appropriately and I've demonstrated that how each of these, individual facets of your socioeconomic status completely affects your educational life. Thank you.